On this episode of Sega Talk, we travel to the year 2025, where Sega only holds 3% of the video game market, and it's up to you to save them. Get your Japanese Duolingo ready. We are talking all things Segagaga.
Segabits presents Sega Talk, a podcast talking all things Sega! With your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello and welcome to Sega Talk. I'm your host, George, and like always, with me is Barry.
Hello.
Is that your intro to this episode? This is like a Sega Geek Fest right here, because we're going to be covering a little game called Segagaga, a simulation RPG by Hitmaker. But first, before we talk about it, you want to plug in our Patreon? Just plug it right in.
Plug it in like a classic console.
Right.
Yeah. So this episode's a Patreon pick. If you support us on Patreon at a certain tier, you get to tell us what we talk about on this show. The entire year has basically been picks, and This one is no exception. Yeah. I mean, what else do I say? I know the picker. His name is Michael S, but I don't see his memories. Typically, we'll read his memories at the top of the show. But unless I'm missing something, I don't believe he submitted memories. Yeah. Anticlimactic there.
Very anti. I'm like waiting for the memories to be read. I mean, this is a game that...
I know.
Has
Who has memories? We don't have memories.
Right. We were in Japan, right? But overall, I mean... Okay, so I can't really get into the game for people that have never heard of this game. I'm sure there's some younger fans out there that don't even know what we're talking about. Segagaga is a simulation RPG developed by Hitmaker and came out on the Dreamcast back in 2001. Only in Japan. The title has gained a Sega fan cult following due to the game allowing you to work at Sega, having a bunch of cameos, and basically kind of taking a really like goofy stance on the actual situation that Sega was facing at the time, which was the demise of the Dreamcast. And very like, I read on Hardcore Gamer 101, there's even a scene where what's her name from Phantasy Star 2, Nai or whatever they call her, right? The girl with the purple hair. Mm-hmm. She makes fun of her US box art. Like only in this game would a character reference box art that fans hate, right? So I think it's hilarious. So Barry, what is your overall history with Segagaga, and when was the first time you ever heard of this Japanese only game?
Well, I guess it was probably in the official Dreamcast magazine. I'm fairly sure they were covering this as it was like being announced. As you mentioned, the game 2001 it came out, specifically I think end of March, and in January of that year Sega announced that they were leaving the console business, and they gave March 2001 as the date the Dreamcast was going to get the axe. So it's a very fitting, like, it's not the final Dreamcast game to ever release. That one was Puyo Puyo Fever, which was actually years later, like 2007, I think. Something crazy.
Yeah,
like 2004, 2005. But this one, it's a strange game. Just as I was reading about it, like, oh, it's like a Sega RPG, but it's not Sega. It's like a company that's basically Sega. But what's so strange is that the game is like very doom and gloom, like about Sega like losing market share and like going under, and you're trying to save it. And it's, I don't know, to me, the game has always felt like Sega themselves seeing the writing on the wall, and the staff like having the company live on into the future in a virtual setting. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so in the real world, this company is, we're leaving the console business. Who knows if Sega will be around in 5-10 years? Like, they didn't know. It could have been absorbed into some other company. And so I really got the vibe that, like, the people making this game felt like this could be their legacy. Like, this could be it for Sega.
For sure.
But my experience with it, like, I read about it a little bit. I'd look up videos online. And then, like, actually, this was one of my very early imports. So I do have the game.
Nice.
It's unplayable.
Right.
Right. But, and I guess I'll say more later, because that's basically all my memories.
Right. My memories mostly for this game, I don't recall ever hearing about the game in the magazine. I'm sure it was there, but I feel like it was probably just a blurb, when they had those little Japanese blurbs. Because I go sometimes back to the Dreamcast magazines, and I started looking through them, and I'm like, wait, this game was in here? What? And then I would look, and I'm like, wait, this canceled game got covered? So there's stuff that you miss sometimes, and this is definitely one of those games that I missed. I would have been super into it when I was younger, because obviously it's Sega fan service. I will say that most of my history with it is later on online with the translation projects and following those, hoping to finally be able to play it in English, which it's been like, I think, a 15-year wait for some of these patches, because I looked it up, and one of the earliest ones was about, like, Sirius was in, like, 2006. So we're getting really close to a 20-year mark there. In 2026, a year after the game setting, we'll have a 20-year anniversary of trying to get the game translated. I did have something I wanted to say. So I saw this old interview with the guy that created the game, which we'll get into the development about it right now, but he had a name for Sega fans that it seems like he doesn't really like hardcore Sega fans. He said he calls them Sega Shinjas, spelled Shingas. I've never heard this before, so I guess in Japan they call Sega fanatics that always back up the company as Sega Shinjas. So just in case you needed another name for a troll account, Sega Shinjas might be it for you guys, if you guys want to troll on Twitter. But yeah, let's get into the develop. Oh, first, we can't talk about the development without talking about the story. So this is the story of the game. In the year 2025, Sega is in crisis with only 3% share of the market. Its main competitor, Dogma, aka Sony, has beaten everyone but Sega from the industry and holds 97% of the market. Oof. To combat this, Sega creates the project Segagaga in attempt to save the company and employ 2 teenagers. Taro Sega, this guy was literally named Sega, so he was born for this. And Yayo Hinata to help them reach the top of the market. Taro Sega must reunite the development teams, unifying the warring fractions of the company, and get them to produce the game that will capture the hearts and minds of the people. Together with the help of various characters, Taro Sega will do his very best to tip the scales in favor of Sega. So, if this game did make it, its ways to overseas during the Dreamcast's reign of terror, would this be a game you'd like geek out about?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
Same here.
I mean,
yeah, go on.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a game made for us,
right?
And we never got to play it.
Exactly.
Which sucks.
Especially considering how I don't know. Like, I was gonna say this. I was gonna talk about this in the end of the episode, but we might as well talk about it. But like, part of the experience also is playing it during the time when Sega was at this console war. Like, I don't know if this game would hit the same for a kid that was born like in 2002, right? And he's like almost 20 today, right? And he
Right.
plays his game. I don't think he's going to understand the context and the feelings that, like, I'm sounding like, oh, you had to be there to experience it. But, like, there was a weird, like, fan base. Like, Dreamcast owners didn't just, like, oh, yeah, I have a Dreamcast and I play it online. Most of them were, like, hardcore into the success of the console and really wanted the console to succeed because they loved the online. They loved the graphics. They
Right.
loved how cute and small the white box was. And this basically took that feeling and made it into a video game, but as a developer's point of view, in a way. So, I don't know. What's your thoughts about that aspect of it? Like, do you think it could be replicated, the feeling of this game, or you think it's just... I don't know. It can still work, like, making a game about making a Sega console?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make another one of these, and it could speak to the people who want a Dreamcast too. You know what I mean? Like, you could make, and I feel like there's enough people at Sega, especially with the 60th anniversary, and with you watch those streams that they do for the Mega Drive Mini and all that, and they are like hardcore Sega history geeks. Like, you watch those streams and they're like, look, when you turn off the Mega Drive Mini or the Genesis Mini 2, it shows the old building. Like, they have that nostalgia. And I think you could definitely, you could make another one of these, and I think it might speak to modern day Japanese and Western Sega fans. And it might almost like kind of scratch that itch and maybe make some people calm down about asking for a new console. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, you see that sometimes with companies like Disney, where people are like, make this movie, and then instead they like put a joke in like another movie referencing that, and people are like, okay, well, they referenced it. That's
good enough for me.
That's good enough for me. Yeah.
Right. So let's get a little bit into the development. This game was created by Tetsuo Okano, and I have his his history of games right here. So before creating this game, he did minor arcade titles. So he did a Dragon Ball VR VS game for the System 32 in '93. I've literally never heard of this game. He did Rail Chase 2 on the Model 2. And then he did Dirt Devils on the Model 3. So he did.
Oh, wow.
So his history is a few arcade games, and then he got to create, I guess, his dream game in a way. So he says that when he first brought the concept to the management of Sega, they thought it was a joke and a potential risk to the company's image. A second attempt at acquiring funding caught the attention of Haso Aguchi, who is basically like if you put Yuji Naka and Yu Suzuki back. This guy's a third, right? He made Crazy Taxi. He basically is very into the business of Sega right now. He does Mars Planet Studios or whatever, the CGI company for Sega, and he does like casino stuff. So he's heading the casino arm of Sega. So he's all into business and making money, I guess, because Crazy Taxi made crazy
Who
money.
isn't? Right.
So with his blessing, they granted the development budget for the game, which is a very low budget. We'll talk about that right now. But do you think the concept itself is very humorous, which is appealing to fans? Do you think Japanese companies sometimes takes their image way too serious?
I actually do think that, because I feel like we look at a lot of other Japanese developers and companies out there, and I don't know, I feel like Sega's very self-deprecating. I mean, you saw that where they went from Sega to Sanshiro, who was like this manly man giving people headlocks,
right,
to this poor sap who was a real person who was crying and getting beaten up by children. But I think that also goes with a cultural thing where, like, it's humility to the point of, like, ridiculousness. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know. There's almost something humble about it that then makes it endearing and, like, strong. You know, like, there's something stronger in, like, you know, accepting how terrible things are and trying your best than being like, we are the best. We will make the best games.
I guess there is something.
I don't know. Like you look at Kamiya with Platinum Games, and I don't get that from them. You know, they never really go, all right, we've made some stinkers. Wait. This one's going to be good, guys. And you know what I mean?
He'll be blocked
I don't know.
If you say anything like that.
He blocked us.
Right, dude.
And we didn't even talk to them. I clicked the heart button on a post, and he was like, nope.
Block.
And I don't know, like...
So,
yeah.
One of the things that I think of when people take their image too seriously is kind of like Sonic Team. They're like, we made these rules, and that's how it is. And it's like, bro, you're making a game of a blue hedgehog. Like, just give the fans what they want. Stop pretending that you wrote the Constitution. Like, this isn't something so big where they're like, we can't put Mighty and Ray in Modern. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like, bro, you're making a game of a blue hedgehog. Chill. You could do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's sometimes they do take it too seriously. I think you can have fun with your games and your franchises and kind of goof on them. I think it's fine. I think Marvel has shown that people will put a lot of money into it. Like Thor literally went from like, oh, it's Shakespeare superhero movies to this guy's fat. Isn't that funny?
For sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have some good news. I found Michael's memory. So I should read it now before we get too deep into development. So Michael was our Patreon picker. This is what he said. He said, I remember reading about this in a magazine when it came out. The idea was and still is ridiculous. Sega was leaving the hardware business, and they made this game about them losing to Sony, the enemy corporation in the game, which is such a ballsy and excellent way to go out. It's something that would never be done today. Along with many of the unique Dreamcast games, I've always wanted to play this game. Maybe someday it will be translated. Thanks for doing this video. So, sorry to get to you a little later, but Patreon is terribly designed, but it's a wonderful way to support us. So.
It is a wonderful, to support us. Hope they fix stuff like that. It is a terrible site. It's crazy. But
it's like 3 comments, and then it's like collapses it down to hide one of them.
Right.
And then it says view all comments, and then it shows 3. Like, dude, I can look at 3 comments. It's okay.
You'll be able to read all that. It's okay. We can survive.
We can.
So he said that it came out in 2001 during the end of the life cycle, but the game actually took 2 years to develop, and it was kept secret until near release. No one knew about the game. By this point, Sega's management were willing to try anything that could save the company from further losses, and so the game was released on March of 2001. Nevertheless, Segagaga's release was kept very low key. For the first 2 months, it was only available via Sega's Sega Direct service, which was their online Japanese store, and it's literally why we still had games for the Dreamcast in 2005 was because they used to sell them directly on their website.
Right.
Strong online sales caused the game to be shipped to stores before receiving a Dorocore, which is like a budget version re-release. Here in America, they were called the Sega All-Stars, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
2 years later, so with how crazy Sega went during the Dreamcast with advertisement, are you surprised that this not only didn't make it outside of Japan, but was also only sold on their website to start with?
It surprises me, yeah, but I think that website was insanely popular. It was a really, I mean, you collect a little bit Dreamcast, right? And you see that time and time again. It'll say, I used to be so confused. It'd be like, Drycast exclusive, or whatever the service was called. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? So, yeah, I mean, there was tchotchkes, merch, box sets, bundles. And to be honest, it lives on with the Eb10 Sega store, which I know has been around for a long time, but I discovered that a few years ago, and I love it. It's like there's so many great pieces of merch there. They're accessible through proxy services. They're cheap. Like, I got like cool little like like a Sega. You've seen that. You touch it, it's the logo, and it like makes all these sounds. It was like $10. Like there's all these fun little things like that coin bank, and right now Sonic Frontiers has all these cool box sets, so it's not crazy to me to think that, you know, they could get away with doing an exclusive on there, especially something like this, because if I remember, and I'm sure we'll get into it, they had some really expensive box sets for this game.
Ooh, I don't think I actually put
even
that.
at the time.
But they did have different releases. One that was a box, I did see. I did put it in the notes, but I know there's different releases. There was... So the game came in a DVD style case. I do see
and
that.
it came with a T-shirt and a pin box, like of all these Sega logo pins. You can get the pin box alone, I think, for about $90 to $100 now. There was also a VMU that said 8-bit on it.
I do have that
like
one.
A Genesis.
I do have that one in the notes.
Yeah. And I think that one was either sold alone. I think it was sold alone. But this one, I believe, is the retail release that I'm holding.
Yeah.
And this one, I actually did a little, because I don't have many memories of this game. I actually purchased this off a guy on Racket Boy, August 11th, 2009. Can you guess how much I paid for it?
$10.
$35.
Okay.
Which isn't bad.
No, it's not bad.
He threw in a free Game Shark.
Nice.
Like Game Shark disc, which is probably expensive now too. But man, if you were an old forum user, go back and look at your DMs and look at the deals you used to get. It's insane.
Right. It's
crazy.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I bought some crazy stuff. I remember back in the day when I first got on the internet, there was people selling like the rarest things I've ever seen for the Dreamcast, like Japanese stuff. Like I remember one guy was trying to say that he had the bike and he wanted to sell it, that Dreamcast bike they put online. And I'm like, man, I would have killed myself. I mean, I would have been like, the envy of Sega fans for if I had that.
This guy sold me, in 2009, a different guy on Racket Boy sold me Panzer Dragoon and Panzer Dragoon Y boxed. Can you guess how much the total was?
$35.
$20.
Right. You came up on that. That's
2009.
That's like more than that, its value. And it's going to continue going up, too, because Panzer Dragoon continues to get that legendary status. I will say,
it's insane.
Sega Direct and releasing it only online was very... Like, this is 2001. Like, we literally did an episode about, I think, Final Showdown or something. We talked about how it only had an online release in 2011. And then we were like, yeah, most people weren't downloading games in 2011 compared to today. This was like in 2001, right. And they were like, yeah, we're only selling it online. Like, that's how future-focused Sega was. And the fact, like you said, Sega Direct had a bunch of crazy cool things that you could buy. It just really made them the forefront in this, like, selling direct to consumers, which I think, I'm surprised companies like Nintendo haven't taken more of advantage of. Like, just selling the game directly to consumers and cutting out the middlemen. Or selling merch.
For sure. And I mean, it was popular, but there's also some rarities. Like, I think Skies of Arcadia had a, like, All-Stars version there. And it's so rare, I don't think it's ever been documented. It exists, but there's no photos of it.
That's
weird.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. All right. So the game features a number, I think this is why it's the most popular, but yeah, Sega franchises referencing all the way back to the SG-1000, although there was several legal challenges during production. Here's the creator himself, Okanu, talking about what was cut. After my first presentation to Sega management, I had a ton of changes on my hands, almost 300 issues to fix. I tried to narrow it down to those fixes to about 100. So you could think of the version that went to consumers as the light version of the original one. For example, one big fix was the opening, where I wanted to feature Saturn-era Sega marketing character Segatan Sanshiro, but because of copyright issues, we could not secure that. The ending had to be changed as well because we used the character that was a property of a magazine here in Japan. I had to change the character to the Get Bass Fish. Oh yes, and I also had to change the red Ferrari, which symbolizes AM2, to, well, the red thing that I could come up with was a shrimp. In Japanese, car is kuruma, which is very popular shrimp, or ibai, which is we eat here in Japan, which is named, I don't know, I can't even say these Japanese words. So it's a play on words. But anyway, so no Outrun because Ferrari license. No Segatan Sanshiro because maybe he didn't want his likeness in the game. So,
right.
As we know from past Sega Talk episodes, there is a lot of legal gray areas when it comes to Sega games. Do you think using Sega... I mean, what you think that like Segatan Sanshiro should have been a okay, right?
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, I guess likeness rights, so...
Yeah, I wonder how that worked with like Project X Zone too, or whatever. Or I think that's the one he was in, right?
Well, he was in, he was in that, and he was also in Rent-A-Hero.
Right. That's the
maybe they were paying him too much.
That's what I'm thinking.
They were like, we can't keep paying this guy for cameos, you know, like Rent-A-Hero got him. Find something
That's
else.
another low budget RPG from Sega that didn't come out of the US too, so weird. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the marketing for this game. So the game reportedly had a 100th. This is how he pitched it, by the way. I read it in the interview. He says it was going to be 100th the budget of Shimu and sell 100 times more copies. That was his goal when he pitched it to Sega as a low budget RPG. Toei Animation also gave Okano a discount on animated footage for the title. Okano also had to market the game himself with a budget of roughly 200 USD. Half of which he spent on a wrestling mask to hide his identity, which we have a picture of right here. Okano set up 4 signing locations in Akihara, and reward.
Akihaba?
Yeah, there you go, because it has a B. Yeah, Sega fans, so only 4 fans showed up. Is that what this thing says? And he was assisted. He basically made a full spread newspaper article based on his shenanigans with the mask to write about the game. Wow. So for a budget of 200 USD, he got featured in a double spread newspaper. Will you call that successful marketing? Like,
it's interesting, I guess.
Can you imagine you give somebody here's $200, go market your game, and he's like comes back with a mask and he's covering his face, like that's pretty. I think it's hilarious marketing. It's almost like
it's funny. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm ashamed of making this game, but it's like, are you? I mean, I don't know. It's weird that I still think it's hilarious. I've never heard anyone. This is something like Eno would do, right? With D or something, he would be like, oh, I'm just gonna wear a mask and I'm ashamed of this game.
Yeah, you see that. I feel like too with Mitsuyoshi doing a lot of the marketing for like the minis and micros. Like he'll just appear and do like singing at a lounge. You know, like it's just very strange. Like they could hire a marketing department, but no, let's get the guy from our sound team to like host this and do events at stores. So I guess it's still living on, but yeah, it's quirky, absolutely.
So Sega had this like internet provider. They had all these weird ways of getting games to consumers, but it kind of did feel like Segagaga just basically gave this guy $200 and it's like, release your game, because like I don't know, like he literally just went and did 4 signings, and that's all the marketing that I've seen. There was no commercials, no ads, no like send people flyers, no like tapes. Remember when they used to send tapes with gameplay footage? None of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because like Sega had a fan base kind of like, I don't know how to even say it, like they had us with magazines, they had us with those discs, they had us on the internet homepage. Do you think this game even had an internet homepage ad for Japan?
Did it?
I don't know. I actually don't know, because I mean I never used the Japanese internet. I'm just wondering, like, do you think it was just 200 or?
I'm sure anything internal on their website they didn't have to, you know, put up to that sort. It was probably all external advertising. So yeah, there probably was. It was like advertised on the shop and on the Sega website, but you're not going to go to a store and see anything for it, really. And I mean, you know, thinking about that, the The Game Gear Micro was not sold in stores. That was an online exclusive, now that I think about it.
That's another weird one.
Yeah, it was only sold from, I think, Amazon, Ebton, like 4 or 5 retailers. So it's not an online exclusive, but the Sega Ebton shop did have exclusive box sets and exclusive hardware. There was a clear one with no like innards, just for looks. So yeah, I guess that's like the closest equivalent to now, where I think you wouldn't see ads for the Micro in stores. It was only on Sega's website. You know,
I do think
it's weird.
I do think that Micro got screwed up. I think they had a bigger plans for it, but I think COVID or whatever screwed it up. I mean, they had an advertisement with Sega.
Possibly.
Like they were literally going to do. It looked like they were going to do a series of commercials with his son, and then they just stopped randomly. And like either that or maybe Sega's like, let's pull back on this. I don't know if it's going to sell well. And they probably pulled back, but it was interesting at first. But yeah. This one, it seemed like it was way less because, like, at least they had the Segaton Sanshiro. Segaton wasn't even in this game, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the gameplay of the game. The game is classified, obviously, as a simulation RPG game. Taru Sega must recruit skilled developers while keeping below budget in order to create maximum profit. To do this, he will hurl insults at developers until their sprites are broken and are willing to negotiate a lower salary and working conditions. Failing to defeat the enemy will result in Taro losing a month of development time, which will become crucial as the game progresses. Once the developer is recruited, they can be placed into one of the 4 development group positions: director, designer, planner, or programmer. Depending on how the player places these teams, they can either create a few fantastic games that take longer to produce with higher budgets that will hopefully return large profits, or they can turn out many shovelware titles in hopes of making some quick cash to keep Sega afloat. The game also has a 3-year development cycle, so after 3 years the game is over. So you have to pick your decisions, I guess, accurately. So what is your opinion on this simulation RPG elements the game use? Does this kind of remind you of like a mobile game, like one of those tap mobile games where you have to wait for your bars to go up?
It does quite a bit. I think this game would have actually done really well on mobile. I know people aren't big fans of mobile games like this, but I mean, if you were to do one that would get me to play it, it would probably be like a Sega history game. Yeah, but you also kind of see that in the Yakuza games with the hostess management system, in the real estate. So it very much has like a Yakuza minigame vibe to it, for sure.
Imagine if they brought back Segagaga, but only as a minigame in Yakuza. With an actual story, that'd be sick. I think it would be cool.
That would be funny.
But gameplay-wise, I think the game is pretty basic. I think it has good ideas, but they're kind of executed, for what I read, very, like, badly, like, rushed. But I think the idea of just having all the Sega characters in the game and running Sega is just... The novelty is enough to sell it on us. I do think it's funny that... Because when I read the interview, he said something, I forgot what it was about in the interview. It was like, they talked about how, he was talking about how people saw the game as a pro Sega, but he was saying it was actually pro developers, and he was kind of telling you how it's like to work at Sega, and the way when you read this, like, you insult people to take lower pay. It's like, well, okay, now I can see why Sega had a problem with this game. It's like... you're saying that we have bad working conditions at Sega. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's a good thing, right?
No. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of company commentary going on in this game.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of stuff got by upper management, too, just because of how low budget this was. I'm sure they didn't check the whole game.
Right. And they said, I mean, I guess it is a made-up game. I mean, technically there is no dogma.
Right.
So we talked about this the whole time, the Sega fan service in this game. Here's a little excerpt from Hardcore Gaming 101. But most of the joy comes from the incredible amounts of Sega fan service found throughout the game. One room has Big Wing from Fantasy Zone, which costs 100G, if it reminds you. The shop uses the same song from Fantasy Zone. When the American executive takes over the studio, he hires goons wearing suits straight out of eSWAT. One of the pieces of armor is Ryu Hazuki's leather jacket. There's a mini game that involves kicking Dreamcast boxes in a truck that's heavily reminiscent of the old arcade game Pingo. They even play a variation of its theme music. You even meet the old white rabbit, Professor Asobin. Is that how you say his name? And who has been a Sega spokesperson since the Mark III/Master System days. And here's a fun note. Segagaga is the only time Professor Asobin actually makes a cameo in a video game, since in the early 80s he was just on those manuals in Japan. So
that's right. Yeah.
Also, the most popular scene, which I'll let you do the voice acting on this. Basically, the most popular scene in the game that became a meme has been uploaded by Game Informer. They literally edited the English thing. I'll start it on the sunset. 6 seconds in. 1, 2, 3.
店長、お店いいんですか?
So I read it. I thought I'd find you here.
どうせ明日は棚卸しだしな。
Oh, it's Taro. Says, Boss, did you close the store early? And Alex Kidd says, yeah, besides, tomorrow's just inventory.
Mind
if I have a seat? Taro says, sure, go ahead. Taro says, I came to Tokyo because I wanted to make games. When I was at my previous job... ... I wanted to make a good game so bad to the point of ignoring everything else, but in the end I was just working for myself. I wasn't thinking at all about the people with which I was making the game or the users who would play it.
It's beautiful.
But I do love games. Yeah, very beautiful. It's kind of sad, really. At this point, I can't really go back to my hometown. Ha ha ha. Man, what the heck am I doing? Alex says, it was the same for me. Taro says, it was? Alex says, I was in a game or two once. Ever heard of Alex Kidd?
Nope.
What? That was you? Says Taro.
Yeah, who else?
Alex says, well, a long time ago. Taro says, oh, I love those games. Go, Alex Kidd.
Was that ever a phrase?
I'm sure it was like a song or something. And Alex goes, yeah, that's it. I debuted as Sega's mascot and went head-to-head against Nintendo's Mario, but they star out the eyes.
You're right, of course.
Yeah. Look at that. But it didn't work out in the end.
I wonder why.
For the longest time after that, I beat myself up about it, thinking about why it turned out the way it did. I spent a lot of time on this riverbank staring at the sunset, just like you are now. That's sad. Taro says, really? Alex, you see, I'm a video game character, so as long as there's no one to control me, I can't do anything but just stand here, stopped.
Isn't that sad?
I've remained stopped, waiting for the next stage to come. Yeah, it is sad. Just waiting the whole time until I was to be called back into the development studio.
It's a long time.
But you're different. We can move forward on your own if you want to. Right now, you're just stopped here, and that's because you've chosen to stop here.
Giving a positive message to everyone out there.
You can move forward rather than just wasting away. How about giving it one more shot? Taro, but I can't go back to Sega. Alex, You think I'm getting older to just look cool? Come on, leave it to me.
He looks the same as he did in the 80s.
Yeah, he hasn't aged. I think that's it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, at this point, Alex takes Taro to see an old associate of his and a manager of the
I thought they were
R&D.
gonna
The
show-
guy knows Taro.
That's enough. Basically, you get the gist. They reference the idea that Alex Kidd is no longer the main. He's a fallen star technically, and they basically just mention it. And I think Sega fans had jokes about Alex Kidd's misfortunes, and I think it's funny that they basically just said, "Yeah, we'll use that as a joke. We don't care. It's all good."
Right. Yeah, and the game's very Roger Rabbit in that sense.
Right, which I love.
You know, it's like, yeah, where the video game characters are real people that interact with the humans.
So,
but they appear in the development studio to be in the game.
Right.
It's very weird.
I would love, like, if they ever did a story for one of these all-star games, right, like the racing, that they just kind of make comments and, like, poke fun at the legacy of the characters. Like, Alex Kidd is obviously, he would be a grocery bagger, and you know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, but he's still a racing anyway. It doesn't matter. That's what I would love to see. Like, poking fun that other people think Sonic comes off as a cocky person, which he really is. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's funny. I hope they do more of that in the future. But I don't think so. I think we'll just be seeing, you know, the portrayal that they do in All Stars, which is these characters, they're together and they're racing. They're not going to be breaking the fourth wall and going, "Hey guys," because if you think about it, it really is for us. Like, how many people know about the history of Alex Kidd, right?
Not many. I mean, most people forgot about him.
Right,
so,
that's true. So, if you're going to buy a version of Segagaga, you probably want the first print run, since it has many of the parody game covers with terrible puns. But even if you have the first copy of the game, you can't just look at these parody covers. They're hidden. You're going to have to get a hacked save file. And so it's technically unreleased content. I do want to look through the game covers, and I know most of these already because I've seen them, but I wanted to see if you guess what they're parodying. So, the first one here.
Oh, okay. Let's check this out.
I don't know if you have them up.
I don't have pictures, so.
Oh, you didn't download?
Explain it to me.
I didn't send them to you?
I don't think so.
I thought I did, but let me see. Well, without the pictures, you really can't do anything, so let me send them real quick. But yeah, you could imagine them, but it won't be the same. Let me see if I can get the link. So, but yeah, anyway, what would your like dream story, like, can you even do a story in a crossover like Sega All Stars? That's something that I talk to people online about, and they are like, not really, because anything comes off as cheesy, right? When you do those, like,
I mean, you can. Project Cross Zone did it, where it was just like characters suddenly appearing together. The Archie Sonic did it with Mega Man. Remember that? Where it was Capcom and Sega properties like coming together, and it was just portals opening. So I think they could definitely get away with that.
The third picture.
I don't know if cinematically it will ever happen, though. You know what I mean?
Right. No.
Because I don't know. Like I know people with the Mario movie are like, oh, we're going to get a Smash Brothers movie, and it's like that's not going to happen.
It could. I
It's
mean,
just
I don't
not.
know.
They're not-
Even if they make a Smash Bros. Movie, is it going to have Bayonetta, a Sega character, Sonic, Pac-Man?
What would the plot be? There would be no plot.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would just be characters fighting. Like, that's not interesting.
They would have to, like... Can you imagine if they try to do a Marvel Universe thing where they have an in-game, but it's like all the movies? Like, that's too much. It's too much. Like, what Marvel did is almost impossible to replicate. I think that's what studios need to figure out. Like, they took 10 years to do this. Nobody's ever done something like that. It's like trying to replicate Lord of the Rings. No, it's not. It was
Right.
It was a moment in history that you can't replicate. Even the show that they released, they have a big budget and
Right.
everything, but the hype behind it is not the same as the movies, and it never.
I see the parodies now.
Okay,
I see.
So
them.
you see the first one, right? Third one,
Yeah.
Caught It Cold. This is that.
Klonoa.
Yeah, there you
right?
go. You got it. Yeah. This one.
Is that Pokemon?
Yeah. This is it's based on the Japanese cover. It has pickles as feet.
Yeah. Picklemon?
Yeah.
Oh, this one. It's the Lion King.
Right, yeah. He's just dropping them. Notice he's kicking them off the ledge.
Olane King. That's really weird. I've got... Oh, what is this one? It actually looks familiar. Okame Boost? What is that?
Wait, is that what you got? Mine's different, I think. Let me see. God, you didn't even upload them in order. Mine's Ace Wombat, too. Do you see that one?
I don't, but I like it.
Right, and then they have Garu, Mark of the Wolves, but he's like smoking cigarettes and has a sailor hat. Some of these have puns in them that we can read because of Japanese.
I see that.
Sega Lolly, which is little girls running instead of Sega Rally, and even has Segagaga Sports logo. I love this.
That's cute.
Basically a Metal Gear Solid with crabs. So Dakin X, which is Maken X, the Dreamcast game. This is a weird one because like I've never heard anyone talk about this game.
I have that game.
Right, I've never heard anyone talk about the game, but they parodied the game, so that's cool. Mortal Wombat.
It's an Atlas game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mortal Wombat, which is obviously Mortal Kombat. I love the fact that they have like all this Wombat stuff. So there's another one with a goat thing. This is Wizardry. It's like a US game, so it's weird. They have this anime girl that's pixelated. I think this is making fun of those like, what do they call those? Like picture games or whatever for the Saturn. Those dating sims.
Kind of. It also looks like porn being downloaded, but not fully processing.
And then the next one is just the actual image that has a bunch of pigeons and an anime girl wearing the pigeon hat. I think it's funny.
Okay.
I think they're trying to make fun of Sakura Wars, but I might be wrong here. Darayirama, which is like, what's that game called? It's like a shoot 'em up game. I forgot, but yeah.
Darius.
Darius, there you go. That's the game. Yeah. Lolly X, which is this? I don't know what game this is. It's one of those like. I think I played it before.
Rally X.
Right, the one is that the one you like leave a smoke trail, and then when the bad guy goes behind it, they like slow down.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
All right. This is Yeez, the girl with the thing. I don't know what the pun is because we don't know Japanese. So, and then this one with the censored food. It has a big E that's red. This I always thought maybe D, but I'm not sure.
Oh. Looks like a wiener.
Right, censored. I don't know. It could be anything. And then Valkyria Profile, which this game actually just made a comeback recently. They just released a new one recently. It was weird. I don't know what this game is. It looks like Armored Core or something. The one with the faces on the robot. And then they have a Lupin.
Oh, okay.
They have a Lupin the Third one, which is weird. It's another movie. Mega Man. Oh, I love this one. Spoon, but it's a dog. Like, it's Spawn, but it's like...
Oh.
I love that one. The Dragon Ball parody one is nice, too. He's like, instead of writing the Nimbus, he's writing a check, it looks like, for 100 yen.
Uh-huh.
Final Pharmacy 8. This one's probably the one that made the most rounds. And they're wearing COVID masks way back in 2001 on the cover. Nice. And that's it. Those are all the parody ones they did.
That's great.
They should have kept them in the game, in my opinion, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's terrible.
Oh, that's funny.
So, ever since I followed the online Sega community, since the start, the idea of a Segagaga translation patch was just around the corner. So I did look into it a bit, and the translation was started by an online group of translators going by Delta Head Translation Group. But it seemed that the developers of Segagaga decided to go solo translating the project by themselves with like a few people in 2011-ish. But they did do the Segagaga translation blog, which you could look online. And that was so they started posting on that blog back in August of 2006, which is the same time I've heard about them because they did a big interview with Game Set Watch. There was also a really good Racket Boy interview in 2011. So that's how far they spanned before updates, where they talk about the hurdles, and from what I gather, actually getting the English text into the game is the real problem amongst the puns and the Japanese specific jokes. It also has that apparently the English characters in the game are double the width per letter of the Japanese, so you would have to like alter the game to squeeze it all in. So you would literally have to cut the dialogue in half, which in my opinion is literally impossible for an RPG to get a game to be directly translated with less letters, right? Like half the words, you can't. It's impossible.
Right. Yeah.
So as far as updates, the last big updates about the project came all the way back in 2013, with the last post saying they were going to have an interview with a website that shall not be named, and another post that's saying, "Hello world, almost 2 years have passed since the last post here. How time flies." This is 2013. I've had a I don't even know what that word, tirade of projects over the last few years based on their likelihood of completion. I've got enough invested in Segaga's translation that I want to see it through. Yet I've also had to focus on other projects that require more immediate attention. On that point, please look forward to the soon-to-be released iOS game, Republic Q. I don't know how you say it. From Camouflage Studios. Because of other commitments, then Segagaga has to take a back seat once more. So I wonder if he actually released that game. You think so for the iOS?
Hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of it.
I'm just gonna what's the iTunes, right? That's where they sell their stuff. Oh, he did actually release it, and it's free.
Well, then he's ready.
He is ready. Come on, back in 2013. When did it come out? It looks actually a lot better than I assumed it was going to look. Holy crap. Okay. It doesn't have great ratings, but the graphics are... Oh. So the last update he did for his game was in 2018. So he's been working on his mobile game. So I'm surprised that, he releases. Most times when I read updates like this, they never do anything. It's just whatever. So he's definitely not working on this anymore, in my opinion. Maybe he is a little here and a little there, but definitely nothing to come out. During the pandemic, though, in 2020, a user called The One Ross, the and then the number one and then Ross, announced the Segagaga open source translation project, which she stopped updating literally that same year. So we haven't had any update for 2 years on that project. Do you see fans ever completing and releasing the English patch for Segagaga?
I have hope, but I don't see it happening. I could count on two hands projects that we've gotten super hyped about. Be it a new Dreamcast game, or a translation project, or a fan game. I'll call some out right now. Elysian Shadows.
Oh, I never heard of that one. Is it good?
And
have they even updated?
Well, that dude, he's back on Twitter now, and he's acting like he's still working, but not on the game, but on this VMU application. It's
that's not what you were doing, right?
No. And then,
oh my God.
What else is there? There's the Big's Big Fishing Adventure 3, which kind of shocks me because I was helping on that game, at least as a voice actor. And it was coming along. There's a playable game there, but I think they really wanted to go above and beyond. And for me, it's just tell the story as a visual novel,
right? And
throw some games in, throw some mini games in. That's all you need, because they have the script, they have the voice acting, they have mini games. They don't have the whole game, but it's just, I don't know. But in this case, they can't cut corners. They've got to translate the whole thing to make it playable, and that's the big issue, I think. I think the best way to go about this is to just have someone play through the game and translate the video so we can at least watch it and get the jokes. I also think someone could make a stripped down version of this where it's only the non-English stuff that you could play, almost like a demo disc, you know, where it's like just everything stripped out and just the end of the game, basically, which is playable. What I do, I have VMU Tool. Have you ever used that?
I used it in the past, but I haven't used it like recently.
Yeah, so it's like it's an application disk you burn and play on your Dreamcast, and it looks like, you know, like it makes your Dreamcast kind of look like a PC or something, because there's like backgrounds that you can set, and then all these file management, and you basically can unlock more space in your VMUs. But the big thing is it comes preloaded, or at least you can preload it as you load up create the disk with all of the Booyaka.com. And remember Booyaka?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. And I think the Planet Web or whatever it was, VMU files. And on there is like a 99% complete save file for Segagaga, which basically kicks you into the final stage of the game, which is a shoot 'em up where you destroy Sega hardware in the what is it, the R360 or whatever that is, the rideable arcade machine.
And they make a reference to it, which I'll mention. But I do want to do a follow up on Elysian Shadows. I did not know that they're still selling the game. By the way, they're still doing reserve.
It's insane. I think next year, early next year, we should do Elysian Shadows Sega Talk. I think that would be fun. We just talk about.
I was going to say, they have a official Wikipedia entry, and they were supposed to be published by Watermelon Games. Like, I'm surprised that nothing.
How much did you lose on that endeavor?
Just the regular. I just bought the regular one because I didn't know it was going to come out.
Like $50.
Right. People in Sega Sonic Retro were like, never trust anyone that's never released anything. And if they promise something big, watch out. So I was like, all right, I better watch out, because these guys were promising to make a development kit to make games on Dreamcast and all this other stuff. And it was like, that seems like a little too much. I'm here for the RPG, you know? Just make the game you promised, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, in this case, though, it's not something to be mad about. It's a free translation project. It's taking forever. And honestly, I think a lot of people age out of it. Like, they get older, they don't want to do this like as a fun little hobby anymore. And the problem is there aren't younger people joining the project going, oh yeah, Segagaga, the Dreamcast game that released before I was born.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, honestly, this game came out 2001,
21
so
years.
21 years ago. There are people listening to this show who were born after this game came out.
Right. Drinking beer.
Yeah. Well, they shouldn't be, right?
21?
I mean, I guess they could, like,
right.
Younger than 21.
Okay. Well, I mean, I won't tattletale if you don't tattletale on them. Let them be.
I won't tell. Uncle George.
Yeah, like, if you're
Uncle George won't tell.
alcoholic, then, I mean, what am I to judge, right? Anyway, I was going to say Segagaga came and went. This is the legacy of it, right? At least for Sega. Most fans, though, still discuss it, and like we just talked about, fans are trying to translate the game. Reviews for the game were also bad, with it getting a 43 out of 100 from Dream Zone, and Dreamcast Magazine giving it the evil 6.66 out of 10. Though, last year the game celebrated its 20th anniversary, and the game got a Sega Forever birthday post, but that's not really like a big deal in my opinion. But at least Sega is recognizing that the game exists, I think. Do you think it would be the same playing Segagaga on anything that isn't a Dreamcast? Because when I was reading the translation guy, he said that he would not want to make it for emulator PC only mod, right? Where it's all translated and it fixes the width or whatever. Because in his opinion, you have to play with the controller and the VMU about the console that it's about, right?
I agree to a point, but if the thing holding up everything is the fact that a physical game can't... I mean, think of it this way. Like, the Shenmue 2 English voice actors have never appeared officially on a disc, right? Now, let's say that the Xbox version did something, or like the amount of dialogue or something is just physically impossible for fans to patch that audio on. Now, I know that's not the case, but let's say it is. If it's impossible or extremely difficult to the point of making the game like unplayable or less than what it could be, then it's impossible, right? Like what's like I'd prefer it to be on the Dreamcast. Well, that's not working for you,
right? We all prefer stuff, right?
There are things that are doable, like swapping the audio for Shenmue, but there aren't things that are doable like cutting the script in half because the physical text size does not work,
right?
Yeah.
I do wonder if there's like a workaround on that, but who knows? I think you would literally have to have someone that literally made Dreamcast games and understands them in a deeper sense than any of us would ever.
I feel like the only people who could do this justice would be M2.
Right.
The last time we had a game fully translated was Monster World 4, right? That was like 9 years ago, like an official translation. Right. It doesn't happen much, but I feel like this is the game to do it. And unfortunately, I think the 60th anniversary was probably the prime time. So, but they're busy doing like Genesis Mini and stuff.
Well, not only that, the game wasn't like well received gameplay wise. So I think a lot of people would say, are like, do we want to waste our time translating this project, or is there any other projects that people might want to see translated too? So I'm just saying, there's so many Sega stuff that it's like it's kind of hard to pick one. So here is we talked about this a little bit. I don't know if it's on here. I guess it's not on here. I thought I put the picture on the file, but it's not coming up. I was going to show the 8-bit Dreamcast VMU, but it's just the VMU that says 8-bit.
It's there. It's the it's under the parody images.
For some reason, it doesn't show up on the actual OBS. I don't know why. Maybe it's a format of the picture. But regardless, you guys are not missing much. It's just a Mega Drive colored VMU. It's awesome. I wish I had it. It's one of those like. One of my favorite things about the Dreamcast was all the alternative stuff that Japan got. It was so awesome. I wish they would do that more. Like, it's so heartbreaking seeing Nintendo for the 5th year in a row sell you a bundle of the Switch. There it is. Thank you, Barry.
Look at that.
It's beautiful.
Web 2.0.
It's beautiful.
Look at that technology.
I think it's sad that Nintendo is still selling the same bundle for the last 5 years with Mario Kart 8 digital and just the console that's the regular console. I'm like, man, Sega used to release so many like awesome bundles, awesome like different things on the Dreamcast, and of course it's because they were failing, but I loved it. I don't know.
Right.
I think it's
that's why I'm really jazzed about the mini consoles, like the sheer number of exclusive goodies they're doing, like the style kit. I have it here actually. Like they have the Virtua Racing cart, and then the 32X, and then the Sega CD add-on, and then on top of that, Sonic Frontiers, which releases the day we're recording this. They have an insane amount of bundles online. There's an art book, a little figure, a plush, like a map where you like set up all the characters. It's overwhelming, but it's like I think it's the most I've ever seen Sega do in the last like 5-10 years for a single game. So
I agree. I think I love when they do this.
We like our goodies. Yeah,
I do, and it's remember like even like 10 years ago when Sega didn't release these goodies. Remember when they were just like digital copy, regular version, and we're like, ever since they bought Atlas, they really got better at doing some special stuff at least. So,
absolutely.
So I love it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's so fun. And like the Mega Drive Mini and the Game Gear Micro, they kind of scratch that same itch that Segagaga did, where it's like you're just like playing with the hardware. You're playing with Sega history. I mean, you see what they're getting away with. They were like, oh, when we had the Mega Drive, we really liked the Cyber Stick. We asked Sharp if they could re-release it, and we made it compatible with 5 games. Like, it's a $150 controller that they just remember growing up using, and Sharp was like, okay. And so I feel like it's kind of that same spirit that M2 is kind of bringing to Sega, where they're just like, let's do fun fan servicey things. And I think this is the right path to take. Instead of like a super niche RPG that only Japanese fans might get. Right. To do like physical items that evoke the history of Sega, the real history, not like a parody history. It's still exciting.
Well, that's not the end of Segagaga. The game sorta lives on through this. I'll put the video so people can see it. Lives on through the. So in the game, there's this last level. The gameplay in the background is just the Dreamcast version of it, but that level, the Thunder Force inspired shoot 'em up level from the game, was later re-released as a Japanese mobile as a standalone game in June 2nd, 2005, and it was called Segagaga R720, which is based on that arcade that does the flips, with additional enemies, including a Sega Saturn boss. So one of the most popular scenes in the game is the shoot 'em up stage, and it's funny because it's inspired by Thunder Force, and the guy that directed this game would go on to direct and help release Thunder Force 6, and maybe like 5 years ago Sega bought the rights to Thunder Force, so Sega and their developers within Sega have this weird affinity for Thunder Force and the developers behind Thunder Force, that it literally got the last fight is literally a Thunder Force level. So I mean, that tells you everything. So when people said, why did they buy these IPs that no one cares about, well, people at Sega do care about them. Maybe not Westerners, to be honest, but there's a lot of fans of the Thunder Force franchise in Japan. So what are your thoughts about actually having a mobile Segagaga game released in 2005 and not even knowing about it?
Yeah, that's interesting because, like I said earlier in the show, if fans were going to do anything, they could just release that part on like a burnable disc. Right. And here we have Sega going out and doing it, but on a mobile game. Right. Which is funny because, as you mentioned at the top of the show, the game itself, like the RPG, it's a very mobile-friendly concept, but instead they took the shoot 'em up, which is the console-friendly concept, and put it on mobile. Right.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, wait, shouldn't it be the other way around?
And it's funny because it's like, you know, they should have just ported this whole game to mobile, because then it probably would have been easier to translate, because the mobile version probably would leave it a little more accessible for, you know, the character and everything. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do anything, if you know how to burn games, and if you are a hardcore Sega fan and you haven't experienced this, I'd say burn a copy of Segagaga, burn a copy of VMU Tool with the Segagaga save files, and play through this, because it is a lot of fun, and it doesn't scratch the itch of like truly experiencing Segagaga, but you get to see the end of the game, and you get to blow up a Sega Saturn at the end, which is really funny. Right. So, yeah.
And do you have any closing thoughts on Segagaga?
I mean, it's always kind of awkward to do these episodes where I haven't played the game. More often than not, it's like because I just didn't go to the effort of finding a way to play it. But in this case, I couldn't. Right. Yeah, it's unplayable because I don't speak Japanese. But yeah, it was fun learning a bit more about it. I hope people seek it out. I hope maybe someone listening to this wants to translate it. Like if they go, oh yeah, that game. I know how to translate. I could do this. Like, you know, knock on that guy's door, get him to keep working on this or help him with it. Right.
I think the game is translated the text, but they can't just they can't input it in the game. That's the issue. If you are a bad or a good Dreamcast developer, maybe the Elysian Shadow guys could get on this. Maybe. Okay.
You know, I think we solved our problem. So what we do is we take everyone who has an unfinished Dreamcast project and have them all work on this translation.
That would
and
work.
then the Elysian Shadow guy can, as his apology, he can burn all the discs and send them to us.
That would be beautiful.
You know?
That would be beautiful. So I do want to mention one
Yeah.
thing. So what do you think about the logo, the SGGG logo? The one that you used, and it's used on everything?
It's interesting. It's a typeface. I know. I have it on my computer.
So it's a cheap, free
But-
typeface.
No. It's from the Nisei fan-made.
Oh, you got the yeah. So this is a
yeah.
unique font then for the game, right?
Yeah. It's I think what it's playing up on is Gaga. Like you're like in love with it.
Right.
So you're like Segagaga, like, you know. I think that's what they're probably playing up on.
I did read
But,
on the interview. He says that the name has to him no significant name. Like it doesn't have any like personal attachment to it. He said that when he told Sega said it has to have Sega in the name. So he had two names on the document that he submitted as a proposal. It was Segagaga and Sega. So Sega twice, and they went with Segagaga, obviously. Do you think Sega would have the same ring to it?
I mean, it's in the song, right? They go Sega.
Right.
So maybe that's where you got it from. But I prefer Segagaga. But it is a little strange because the game's like, oh, it's not actually Sega. It's a different company. But then they're like outright going, oh yeah, I used to work at Sega and my name's Alex Kidd
Right.
and Mario and Nintendo.
Right.
Like it's a very loose parody. Like when they want to, they'll just be like, nah, this is actually Sega, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, you know, that sort of thing.
And do you think that in we're almost in 2025, so I guess it's more hindsight, but are you surprised that Sega thought of Sony as the biggest threat compared to Nintendo? Because they literally didn't even mention, they literally were saying Sony beat Nintendo. They basically beat Sega at this
Right.
point, and you have to save us. So in their point of view, they thought Sony was going to destroy Nintendo.
Yeah, it's interesting. They really did see Sony as the big bad guy.
Right.
Which I think was a reflection of what Sega staff probably were feeling at the time.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they probably had a lot more positivity towards Nintendo. I don't think there's actually a lot of animosity. I think it's more the fan bases than anything. But it is interesting that that they didn't treat it more as an enemy.
I do wonder. I would love to hear like 90s, mid 90s, early Dreamcast developers, their actual thoughts as a company, like their personal thoughts on Sony and their rivalry and what they actually thought about the moves they made. Because I do know that Sony dominated from the 90s and the early 2000s. Like you can't really deny that they did wipe the floor with Sega and Nintendo, because like the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 combined sold more units than I think at that point both companies ever made during their whole history, right? That's how much they
Right.
were selling. So I could see it. Now they seem very defeatable. Like the Switch has a niche where it just keeps selling. It's ridiculous. So now it doesn't seem so far-fetched to think, oh, there's actually three big companies and anything could happen with Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think by this point Nintendo is almost in a category of its own. It's almost like they took their struggling console with Wii U and basically turned what they do into a handheld developer.
Right.
That's basically what they are.
Right.
But I think because of the Switch's concept, it keeps them in the console game, which is interesting. Because I probably play my Switch undocked, just handheld 75% of the time.
I think a lot of people do.
You know? Yeah, and so it's interesting that to survive, Nintendo really has turned into a handheld developer. I never would have thought that, you know, the company that made the NES and stuff is basically went the road of Game Boy.
Right.
But I mean, here we are, you know, and I guess the future will tell if Nintendo will continue, like, if they'll really make a beefed up, hardware heavy console only. Like, I don't think they will. I think they will forever be focusing on this handheld market, which is kind of like the Steam Deck is really more of a competitor to the Switch than anything else. So it's interesting that, you know, when we report on these games coming out, like Sonic Frontiers is coming to Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. Now it's kind of like there's Xbox and PlayStation on the home console on your big TV, and then there's Steam with the Steam Deck and Switch with with the handheld. So it's interesting. And where does Sega fit in with all that? It's like
making games.
They make games.
Yeah. I would say that I would love to see, like, if they ever do another Switch or whatever, is just better hardware where all your old games work. But like the dock, I think, idea wasn't taken far enough. I think there should be like some hardware so when you actually play it on your home, it's like, oh, I could do 4K on your TV, but when you take it, it's like all downgraded to like, you know, 720 or 1080p. Because like, do you really need the beefiest hardware on the go with bad battery, you know? So
right.
But
yeah,
I think it's interesting that this is what they saw for 2025. So they were totally wrong. Sega does not have 3% of the market share. They have 0% of the console market share. And Sony doesn't have as much as they thought they were going to have. Definitely not 97%. I would say roughly now it's like 35-40%, because now you have Steam. PC's bigger than it's ever been. You got, I guess that's not a whole market, right? And then you got Nintendo selling a ton of Switches, and Xbox doing Game Pass, which kind of changes everything, in my opinion. So, very interesting take on Sega's future from a developer. You want to read the Patreon comments to close it up?
Yeah. I hesitate to call these memories because I don't think any of us actually remember playing this game. But so if you support us on Patreon at any level, you can have your memories read at the end of the show. So we have Daniel Andres, who says, he goes all out. He goes, "Oh my God, holy crap. Now this is a nice surprise. I was not expecting you guys to do Segagaga out of the blue like this. Yeah, man, what a unique game this is. Honestly, I wish that this game was the Dreamcast's swan song here in the good old US of A. In a way, that would be fitting, but in another way, it would be sort of morbid-esque to the console. I do wish, however, that it was at least one of the last games released for the system here. I remember discovering this game via once again, the famous Johnny Millennium, aka the Happy Console Gamer. I watched his review of the game years ago, and I remembered that it left me speechless. I just cannot believe that a game like this actually existed from Sega. I recently purchased the collector's edition in April, the one that came with the huge shirt and pins, and ever since then I put on a white Sega baseball cap that I wear practically every day. I also work at a video game store in Walled Lake of Michigan, and I ask every person who is familiar with the Dreamcast if they know where my pins are from, or at least people who notice them and comment on them. While I haven't had anyone answer yes yet, this game is severely underrated and definitely deserves more attention, plus hopefully an eventual English patch. Regardless of that, though, I do love Segagaga as an overall concept, and I hope to make a video review of this someday.
Nice.
Ben Hayward says, I really love that Sega poked some fun at Alex Kidd's demoted mascot status in this game. Yeah, I do. I think that's the highlight of the game. Really. Nicholas Schaefer says, Segagaga is such a unique concept that I think that if they had brought it to the West, it would have done gangbusters, because this is what every Sega fan was doing at the time, couch directing how they would save Sega.
Yes, that's true.
The community has done a lot of amazing things, but it's a shame that this hasn't been translated for the West, and it is my biggest hope to see. So yeah, that does it for the memories. What's next?
Yeah, so I was just going to ask.
What's next?
I think you get to pick the next one, right? Or is there a picker for the next week? Or next couple
The next one has been picked. It is actually a game that I've been intending to buy for the longest time. I haven't gotten around to buying, so I guess I'm burning it. It's Sword of the Guts Rage.
Ooh, I got that game. That's a good
Yeah.
game.
So maybe you can give me some pointers.
It's,
You'll be like, Barry, I'll do it.
Oh, I mean,
Push it back 4 weeks.
it's a good game. Have you ever seen the Berserk anime or read the manga?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I'm not super into it. So if you want to give me some pointers,
Let me. There's this movie.
No, not during the show.
Oh, I was going to tell you real quick. There's this the Golden Age arc or whatever. There's like these movies. There's 3 of them that just tells you the prequel, the pre-story. Very well done. It's basically the prequel to why this whole thing's happening in the game. It's very brutal. I wouldn't watch it with anyone that's too squeamish. Basically, it's a really effed up game world. Basically, just say that. But I find the manga interesting. I find the anime interesting. I used to be into it when I was younger because it's very grim, dark stuff. And I used to be edgy, so I'm definitely looking forward to talking about the game and your thoughts about it. There's a lot of stuff wrong with it, but man, this is so gory. It's cool. So that's what I like about it. I thought the graphics at the time were amazing too. So that's it.
Great. Can't wait.
That's it for this episode of Sega Talk. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.